What up, everybody? As we're waiting for Stars to announce a release date for the final chapter of Raising Kanan, the biggest question mark going into the fifth season is if Rock is dead or alive after season 4 ended with the cliffhanger of Kanan with his gun drawn at Rock as we heard a shot fired as the screen went black. And so far, everything going into season 4 has pretty much been kept under wraps other than a couple teaser videos that featured only Kanan in them and one scene of Jukebox, very emotional. But with the fourth season ending in a cliffhanger, with the audience not knowing if the main character is dead or alive, really makes it kind of hard to promote the fifth season too much without spoiling the fate of Rock. And we don't have a definite answer concerning Rock's fate from OG Power either, as it shows conflicting reports concerning Rock's fate, with one scene that has Kanan telling Ghost and Tommy he just went to see his mother, and another scene showing a news report that said Kanan had no known next of kin. But with that said, I don't think that Kanan killed his mother in the final scene of season 4. And if he did, I know a lot of people are going to be pissed off when this is revealed at the beginning of season 5. But I do think that Rock is going to have more problems with law enforcement in season 5. And my prediction for the Raising Kanan series is that it concludes with Rock going to prison on a 25 to life sentence. If Rock is locked up at the end of the Raising Kanan series, then they could always bring back Rock for cameos and Power Origins from time to time by having Kanan go visit his mother in prison. Then it would make sense why he told Ghost and Tommy he went to visit his mom's in Power, but she wasn't in the picture or involved in Sean's life because she was locked up, and Ghost and Tommy knew that Kanan used to go visit his mother on a regular basis back in the day when they ran with him. The feds have been in the picture since season 3, looking into the mafia and Rock's connection to the mafia after the war between Rock's crew and Sal Buscemi from Jersey when he had his men ambush the projects. And even though the feds weren't in the picture on screen in season 4, they were still working behind the scenes as we saw Stefano switch up his spot from the fish shop to a restaurant because the feds had been watching him. Something else we know from OG Power is that there was a big RICO case that took place around the point in time we are on the Raising Kanan timeline when Tony Teresi got locked up, and it was said that a whole bunch of guys from the mafia snitched and got tickets to Arizona. And since we know that Stefano Marchetti is currently the big fish of the mafia that the feds have been looking into, if he survives and makes it into season 5, I think that Stefano ends up going to prison in that RICO case. And because Rock and the Thomas family are connected to the mob, they could end up getting tied into this RICO case as well, with Rock ultimately landing a 25 to life sentence. Rock going to prison and getting sentenced to 25 to life also leaves the door open for Rock to eventually get out of prison, and the writers could actually make it to where Rock gets out of prison at the same point in time to where we are on the Power timeline at the beginning of Legacy. Because with a name like Legacy, we definitely need somebody from the Thomas family bloodline involved in this show. Depending on the fate of Marvin and Lou, Rock could be getting out of prison to having no more immediate family left alive, and since she had been in jail, she lost her son, her grandson, and her niece. Even though Rock still does have some family that we know about living in Virginia, and I wonder if we'll ever see them come back into play at all or not. And I know a lot of us were disappointed that there was no official announcement for Power Legacy at the end of Force or a legacy promo in the credits, even though that rooftop scene with Tariq and Tommy could be considered the official Power Legacy teaser. But in a recent interview with Deadline, the post-4 Season 3 interview, when talking about Power Legacy, Joseph Sikora said that he couldn't say too much because they don't want to give anything away. But with Force being over with, I question what could they spoil at this point. So maybe what they're trying to keep under wraps is the major plot twist that Rock did survive and Kanan didn't actually end up shooting her, and she'll be in season 5 as she ultimately ends up going to prison and returning to the show, not in Origins, even though she could still make some cameos with Kanan visiting her in prison. But what if Rock actually makes her return to the storyline in Power Legacy after getting released from prison? Rock is currently around 33 to 34 years old on the current Raising Kanan timeline, so that would make her in her mid-60s on the present Power timeline. And I feel like Patina Miller should still be able to play the older version of Rock, because in the same type of way, the makeup department made it look like Jannard had a cauliflower ear and Kanan had that big scar on his neck. They could easily make it to where Patina looks a few years older, and she could have stayed thin by exercising while in prison. Rock getting out of prison for Power Legacy would be a fresh angle in the Power universe like we've never seen before, even though we saw Kanan and Lorenzo both get out of prison after 10 years, which is also a number to keep an eye on, because if Rock goes to prison at the end of the Raising Kanan series, this also leaves the door open for her to get early release in Origins, similar to Lorenzo, keeping in mind that Origins is going to have about a 10-year time jump from the end of the Raising Kanan series. So Rock could actually fall into the same pattern as Kanan and Lorenzo and get out after 10. But I think the story would be better if she got out on the Legacy timeline, because like I was saying, we haven't seen someone getting out before after that amount of time, especially a character we already were introduced to prior, while pretty much coming home to nothing at the same time. At least Lorenzo still had his family intact, and Kanan still had his son and his baby mama Jarita, as well as Ghost and Tommy. But somebody else he also had on his side was Dre, somebody he met while in prison. So this could potentially be an angle that Rock would use when get out of prison, would be connecting with somebody that she knew from inside. Rock getting out of prison after 30 years would be similar to the story of Tulsa King and how Dwight Manfredi got out of prison and built an empire in Tulsa in his 70s. Rock could get out and start studying the game and how things have changed, and ultimately figure out that Tommy Egan and Tariq St. Patrick are now running the game, two names that are familiar to her, as when Kanan used to go visit her in prison, he would tell her about James St. Patrick and Tommy Egan. Then Rock could begin to plot against Tommy and Tariq like how Kanan did in OG Power against Ghost and Tommy, and we would see who would come out on top between those three major players of the Power universe, Rock, Tommy, or Tariq. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.